Tell us the hilarious incident you laughed the hardest at in your life. A few years ago, I was traveling across the country and stopped for lunch at a restaurant along the highway. Just as I headed from the register to my table, a car flew into the restaurant from outside. It flipped over and ended up in the table area. The car managed to land on its wheels, and I saw two African American women with obvious excess weight in the driver and passenger seats. For a few seconds, I stood in a stupor, as did everyone else. It was so quiet that everyone could hear when the woman sitting behind the wheel yelled, "Fuck! I just got my hair done!" Both women were fine, and no one in the restaurant was hurt, but I couldn't stop laughing for hours because of the fact that these women were primarily concerned with their hair. Luckily, the restaurant was almost empty. I was once at a small but serious poetry event at my university. Several people mentioned the connections they had with a certain poetess. For example, the event host who introduced her went to grad school with her, and the university president worked with her mentor, etc. My friend whispered to me in a serious voice, "And I smacked her, Mom." We both laughed so hard that people turned around and looked at us, even those sitting 4 rows ahead of us, even though we were trying to laugh silently. I would occasionally start and stop laughing within half an hour and had to leave the event early because I was being too inappropriate and ruining everyone's fun. In high school, the guy at my table was asked if he had ever been intimate, and he replied with absolute seriousness, "No, but I've seen dogs do it." His sincerity and facial expression made me laugh so hard and for so long that I started to fear I was going to pass out. I laughed so hard during an erotic dream that I woke up. I dreamed that me and a guy were fucking, and then my dad came up to us and looked at us disapprovingly. I looked at the guy and saw that he had turned into a 180-centimeter weenie. My dad looked at me and in a nonchalant voice said, "That's a big wiener." When I woke up, I was either crying or laughing at the unexpected transformation and my dad's reaction. A few years ago, I was having a drink with a friend when she started having hiccups. I warned her that I would have to scare her to stop the hiccups. After about 5 minutes, I told her that I needed to talk to her about a very serious topic. She leaned toward me with a concerned look. I took a deep breath and said, "You're pregnant." Her eyes rounded, and she asked in a frightened voice, "Is it true?" She immediately realized her mistake, but it was too late. I was dying of laughter. I was actually crying. I couldn't stop. I still giggle when I think about it. Well, the interesting thing is, it actually worked. She stopped hiccuping. My then 3-year-old daughter and I were in a children's toy store when she suddenly said she needed to go to the bathroom. Oh no, the little one or the big one? The big one. I grabbed her arm and ran up to an employee. "Do you have a restroom?" "Yes, but it's at the other end of the store." I turned to my daughter. "We're going to have to run, okay?" "You don't have to worry anymore. I've blown it all out." "What do you mean?" "I blew it all out." I barely carried my daughter and her poop to the bathroom because I was laughing hysterically. I had to throw her pants and underwear in the trash and wrap my jacket around her waist to cover her bare butt. Without stopping to laugh, I must have seemed insane. I was reading some list, like on BuzzFeed. I don't remember exactly, like alternative names for different words, like dangerous noodles instead of snakes, etc. And I got to the combination of volcano to mountain fountain, and I actually laughed for 20 minutes, so hard I wanted to pee. I cried. I had trouble breathing. Then I laughed for weeks more when I remembered it. My husband thought I was crazy. A song came on the radio with the lyrics, "Ooh, that smell. Can't you hear that smell?" My husband quietly muttered under his breath, "Did she fart?" He wasn't even intending to make me laugh. I think he just decided to make a point that it was a silly song. I almost died laughing, and I'm laughing right now remembering it, even though it's been about 8 years. A few years ago, I was playing Pictionary with my wife and her parents. It fell to me to draw a bearded woman. I draw terribly, so I got some stick with boobs and a beard, with a huge triangle drawn behind it, which was supposed to represent a circus dome. Everyone was trying to guess, but no one could. Suddenly, my father-in-law jumped up and yelled, "Vagina!" Clitoris. Clitor. He thought he had guessed and was so excited that he yelled the word over and over again. At one point, we just couldn't take it anymore. I have never laughed so hard in my life. My mother-in-law still has my bearded woman drawing on her refrigerator. So, I was sitting outside a bakery in San Francisco, near the fishing pier, and I saw a man come out of the bakery with a bowl of soup and bread. For those who have never been to San Francisco, I explain, there are a lot of seagulls here, and they are usually very aggressive in trying to take your food away from you. Anyway, the man sat down at a table outside the bakery and started eating his clam chowder. He was surrounded by seagulls and started screaming as usual, and it was obvious that this was very annoying to the man. So he made the fatal mistake of breaking off a piece of bread and throwing it to the birds. As soon as the seagulls realized they could extort food from him, they surrounded him. One of the seagulls landed next to the man and stood with its back to him, about 1.5 meters away. The man got up, walked over to it, and beat the crap out of it. Then turned around and immediately realized his mistake, as there were already about 50 seagulls attacking his food. So he yelled out, "That's it! I got it! You sent your stupid friend to distract me, and you attacked my food yourself, you sons of bitches!" It was hilarious. I was at the movies with a buddy. He went to take a shit. I took the stall next to him, then came out. A few seconds later, a huge African-American man weighing about 130 pounds walked into the restroom and took the stall I came out of. My buddy, who thought I was still in there, wiped his ass and started slipping the used toilet into the next stall where the man was sitting. I had never heard so many motherfucking words in a public place before. While all of this was going on, I was lying on the floor of the toilet, crying and laughing harder than I ever had in my life. I watched a group of mentally challenged adults go karting. One of them rode perfectly halfway around the track and then hit the brakes for no reason. Another crashed into a wall, and when a staff member got her back on the track, she started yelling, "He's not going! He's not going!" The employee took a long time to figure out why the cart wasn't going, and then wondered if she was hitting the brake or the gas. Suddenly, the cart touched down and started hitting every wall for the rest of the lap. The end of the lap was even funnier. When the employee indicated to pull into the parking lot, one girl drove straight at him, and he had to jump over the cart. She hit the wall behind him, ricocheted, and drove in the opposite direction. Another girl pulled into a parking lot, but didn't slow down, and crashed into a go-kart parked in front of her. The impact was so hard that snot came out of her nose, which continued to hang thereafter. Then, the girl who had ignored the employee showing the sign to pull into the parking lot reappeared, and he showed her the sign again. She almost forgot about it, but at the last second turned into the parking lot. But in doing so, she hit a roadblock between two rows where other carts were parked. Her cart got stuck in the concrete barrier, front wheels still spinning in the air. No, I am in no way mocking mentally challenged people, but if you saw this with your own eyes, you would laugh too. A week ago, I was waiting for a permissive traffic signal at an intersection, and some guy on a fancy race bike pulled into the safety island to wait for the green light. Only he apparently forgot that he was wearing the kind of shoes that attach to the pedals, so he stopped, tried to balance for a second, and fell. The light turned green right after that, and I had to leave. One of the funniest scenes I've ever seen. In high school, The substitute chemistry teacher decided to demonstrate the reaction of calcium carbide with water and then test the presence of acetylene by burning the products of the reaction. The instructions for the reaction emphasized several times that a single crystal of calcium carbide should be used. The asshole poured the entire bottle into a petri dish, and when our nerd tried to object, sent him to the principal. When he did perform the acetylene test, his entire upper body was engulfed in a fireball that soared to the ceiling and left a black ring of soot there. He was fine, except that all the hair on his head was scorched. Everyone was shocked at first, but then the whole class was rolling around on the floor. I was in class one day when, in the middle of a lecture, a guy in the front row got a phone call. He stood up, said loudly, "I'll be right there." He took off his sweatshirt. Underneath it was a Superman cape with an S on it. Then he ripped off his Velcro pants and flew up the stairs and out the door. Everyone sat in silence. Our professor, who had a good sense of humor, remarked, "Thank goodness he'll be there on time." My sister and our 2 Cocker Spaniels were in the backyard. Seeing the sliding glass doors closed, the 2 dogs decided to run inside at full speed. Ba-bam! Both dogs crashed through the door. Then my sister, who didn't see it, did the same thing. All of this happened over the course of about 6 seconds. I was at a concert with a friend and she decided to go to the restroom, and I was waiting for her outside. The restroom was located near the escalator. I looked over and saw a woman, apparently very drunk, who decided to take a piss under the escalator. All I could think was, wow, as she stood up, then slipped on her own pee and fell face first into the pee. I laughed so hard. Best concert of my life. My dad was standing at an intersection in downtown Cleveland, waiting for a green light when some guy in rapper pants stepped into the crosswalk. His pants hung so low on his hips that they finally just fell halfway down the road. He tripped and fell face first into the ground. One day in college, the walkway outside our dormitory got icy, and then the ice was covered with a light layer of snow. My friends and I slipped on the walkway as we walked home. Later, we started watching from the window of our room as others fell. After 30 minutes, there were already 11 of us near the window with tea and popcorn. We watched every pedestrian on the path falling or trying with all our might not to fall. One very tall guy did a cow dance on the ice for about 2 minutes, but stayed on his feet. Afterward, there was a huge round of applause, but clapping from the next room. We jumped outside, looked up at the dorm, and saw that at least 4 windows had people gathered at them. We waved, and eventually everyone gathered in the courtyard for an impromptu ice party.